We thank you all for gathering here with us tonight. As the days grow shorter and the darkest season is upon us, it can be harder than ever to venture out. Yet this is exactly the season when we benefit the most from the warmth of connection. This is the time to truly take shelter in each other's presence. When the darkness is all around us, and when our hearts are flooded with grief, it may be difficult to know how to even begin this journey. A chaplain colleague shared this poem with me recently. It's called "The Way I Must Enter" by Izumi Shikibu. The way I must enter leads through darkness to darkness. O moon above the mountain's rim, please shine a little further on my path. How do you cross the flood? You cross calmly, one step at a time, feeling for stones. How do you cross the flood, my heart? You cross calmly, one step at a time, or not at all. I love the tenderness of this poem. I love the reminder to slow down, to go one step at a time, feeling for stones. Of course, this is not our instinct. Our instinct when crossing the flood is to go as quickly as possible through it because grief is so uncomfortable. Grief can make even the simplest task feel impossibly hard. Just getting up in the morning, just falling asleep at night, just taking a shower or making breakfast. All of that can feel like too much. We may feel as though we're suddenly at a very high altitude, where even breathing takes more effort. But grief is not an inconvenience. On the contrary, grief is a measure of the depth of our love and our care. Grief is a testament to all that we've shared and to all that we cherish in our beloved. There's a quote that's often brought me comfort. It says, "What is grief but love persevering?" What is grief but love persevering? These words feel so true. Grief is not separate from love. It's another movement in the same piece of music, another act within the same play. Grief is the continuation of love. Grief brings more feelings than we even knew we could bear. Every shade of sorrow and every shade of joy are present in grief. There are the times when we do not know if we'll ever stop crying. There are the times when we're cleaning out a drawer or a closet and we rediscover some treasured memory, and we may feel they are suddenly right there with us, like sunlight breaking through the clouds and lighting up the entire forest. We may see signs of our loved one all around us: a cardinal, a butterfly, a hummingbird. My grandmother always told me she'd like to come back as an owl. So whenever I see an owl in the woods, I stop and I say hello, and I consider that it could be a holy visitor. Sometimes we feel like our loved one must have sent this heart-shaped stone to be on our path today, or a certain song to come on the radio. Sometimes, exactly at the moment we ask them for a sign, we may look up and see a meteor soar toward the horizon. Grief reawakens our attention to these subtle signs and visitations. Grief reawakens us to the staggering beauty of this world. Grief has life force energy. It has heat. Grief has this beautiful, glowing ember quality in our hearts. It's from that ember that our compassion is kindled. It's from that understanding of suffering that we deepen our love and our compassion for all beings. When I think of grief, I so often think of kintsugi. Kintsugi is the Japanese art of repairing broken pottery. The word kintsugi literally means to join with gold. In this method, all of the broken pieces are put back together and joined with a fine layer of lacquer or resin mixed with gold. The more that is missing from the pottery, the more spaces there are that are filled entirely with gold. In kintsugi, no one is trying to conceal the fact that the pottery was broken and will never be the same. No, on the contrary, kintsugi teaches us that from this brokenness, we can create something even more precious. As a philosophy, it treats breakage and repair as part of the history of an object, rather than something to hide. This is how I think of our grieving hearts. We are not trying to repair them back to how they were before. We're not trying to disguise the broken pieces. Instead, in our slow healing, we are joining those broken pieces back together with the finest layer of gold. Tonight, may those jagged edges of grief be softened. May those joyful memories wash like sunlight across our inner landscapes. Tonight, in whatever stage of grief we find ourselves, may all that is broken in us become even more beautiful as we slowly join these pieces back together. Brokenheartedness is an essential part of the history of all human experience. In this shared heartache, we are so deeply in communion with the ancestors. In this shared grief, we are all one family. In closing, I'll share a blessing from the great Irish poet and philosopher John O'Donohue. It's called Beannacht. On the day when the weight deadens on your shoulders and you stumble, may the clay dance to balance you. And when your eyes freeze behind the gray window and the ghost of loss gets into you, may a flock of colors, indigo, red, green, and azure blue, come to awaken in you a meadow of delight. When the canvas frays in the currach of thought and a stain of ocean blackens beneath you, may there come across the waters a path of yellow moonlight to bring you safely home. May the nourishment of the earth be yours. May the clarity of light be yours. May the fluency of the ocean be yours. May the protection of the ancestors be yours. And so may a slow wind work these words of love around you, an invisible cloak to mind your life.